Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, July 2nd. The month ended. We got a new card back and a golden card that I turned in the dust for 50 dust. The Time Tinker's expansion left, and very possibly I could have gotten one more Time Tinker's daily quest yesterday, but I didn't play on the European account later because the European account turns over at the latest point compared to my time zones. So now instead we need to win a Paladin or Priest game and play 50 or 20 Warlock class cards. We're back to the less profitable, more difficult games. We're back to rank 24. If we can get a win streak, that would be helpful and nice too. Meanwhile, compared to a relatively small amount of daily quests, normally we would have 3 daily quests to do on a Monday. We have probably the average amount of news, but less daily quests to talk about the news in the process. So I'll have to try to rush through the news, sort of. I'm not going to go super fast, but I've already filtered a lot of the games on Steam that I would have had nothing to say about them anyways. First article we have today: PC Gamer, Slay the Spire adds a 3rd game mode, reaches 1 million copies sold. Create your own challenges in the custom mode. That sounds interesting. The weird thing about Slay the Spire, and this is a growing issue for a lot of games, and particularly there were games that I was looking at on my Steam wishlist that I took off because they were games that were really only hyped by Giant Bomb mostly, or PC Gamer, maybe Rock Paper Shotgun, Kotaku. Somebody would have had to have talked about this game and gotten it in my head, and that's really the only reason why I even have it on the wish list, is because somebody who I really don't trust their opinions anymore, and probably never should have, hyped a game more than it really deserves. And so when I was looking on the wish list and looking at some of these games, and I'm like, this game is negatively reviewed, and yet I'm keeping it on the list because like Jeff Gersman told me he liked it. I'm like, I don't think that's a good enough reason anymore. So I feel like I'm slightly gaining some independence here on some games. Slay the Spire is an example of that. This is a game that was hyped. It's a game that once it's all finished, I might want to play it, but it's kind of questionable how much I'm gonna really want to play it when it's all finished, because there might be a new like deck building game that's better by the time it comes out. No guarantee that that's gonna be the case, but it might be, certainly. All of this. However, I guess 1 million people have purchased Slay the Spire, and if there's a decent amount of people that have reviewed it on Steam, where Steam reviews have become more my touchstone as far as games and their quality is, do real people who buy games and play games like the game versus video game reviewers who very possibly only play the first couple hours of the game before they write an article. But I'm kind of getting into a rant there. Speaking about going in a weird direction, let's see. That was that daily quest, first try. So do I want to break the streak, or do I want to try to play Zoo Warlock? I guess I'll play Zoo Warlock because I need to play Warlock class cards. There's a visual novel game called Adolescent Santa Claus. This visual novel game tells the tale of a cute little Santa Claus appearing. It's very positive at 86% of 50 user reviews. Free to play, casual, indie adventure anime. So you have this girl that's supposedly Santa Claus, which is a very Japanese thing. That their understanding of Santa Claus is tangential and gone off in the realm of weird fantasy. Certainly, they certainly have no problem, and I've seen it in several instances of them transforming a big fat jolly guy with a big long white beard into let me just describe this picture. Cute anime girl with brown hair, of course clean shaving, and wearing a red scarf and a sweater. Like, you wouldn't call that Santa Claus in any other part of the world. And I imagine in the translation they probably don't even call her Santa Claus. They probably say she's like a Santa Claus helper or something. But they don't want to make her an elf, because that would be going into a different direction. This is English and Korean, so I guess I have to take any blame I was putting on Japanese and saying this actually was done by Koreans, but that doesn't really mean much because I've seen Japanese do it too. Asian countries in general, like, they just have completely different holidays, and like, seems like for all the people who've played it and liked it, it's a free-to-play game. There's might be some actual story here wrapped around a kind of ridiculous appearance. I've seen a lot of Korean movies and TV shows, and sometimes Korean stories are rather serious and rather well written, but just wrapped around comedy, because they don't have in their head the idea that, no, this movie has to be a comedy so it's all funny all the time, or no, this movie has to be a drama so it's all drama all the time. They will just naturally flow from comedy to drama to action to horror. Like, it just all mixes together in a quite unique and amazing way quite often. The thing here I can say is that for adolescent Santa Claus, there's no sexual content or anything, nudity tags, so you might be safe for work here, although you'd still probably get looked at funny, quite frankly.
Chill out.
Draw a card. I just found out that there actually is a tag in Steam called family friendly, and apparently it's just such an underused tag. I've never seen it before. Like, family friendly games generally don't even exist or don't get labeled that. Even the Disney games are not particularly family friendly, in the sense that I don't think an adult would enjoy playing the game, so it's only satisfying the kids. Oops. What did I just do? I'm losing here playing a bunch of Warlock cards. I kind of would like to see if this developer has made anything else, but right now, since Steam's website is just not working as far as the search, I can't do anything more with this. Last year on my channel, I tried to have a December series of Christmas and Santa Claus games. There really weren't a lot of them, quite frankly. This would be a game to maybe play, but yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that next year. I had already sworn off not doing a Christmas thing. It's too close to Halloween month. I like, after doing an entire month based around horror games, trying to do Thanksgiving games, which I did last year, worked not great. Maybe I'll do that again, but then doing a December month, theme month, didn't make a lot of sense. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article. Steam had 13.5 new first-time purchasers between January and May, over 3 million people per month. So Steam is not going anywhere. If anything, Steam is on the verge of getting more and more of an audience as they partner to be in China, as they expand to more markets, as more people turn a certain age that they have the money and the ability to get a PC game, a PC and play PC games. Steam is growing pretty well, whereas the people who are getting bored with Steam or dying out on Steam is not really even worth mentioning. With more people on Steam, we will see more variety of games on Steam too. Like, if Steam had not expanded a little bit into the Asian market and allowed visual novels and Japanese games in general on their site to grow popularity there, Steam would be a very, very different web service. Like, it would really just be Western games. And that's not just saying there would be no visual novels on there. There probably would be a lot fewer Japanese games whatsoever. So, like, no Bayonetta, no Nier Automata, things like that. Very possibly not on Steam. So as they move forward into, let's say, India, if there's a little bit of a few Indian games that are starting to get developed in that region. If we get more Indian games made and sold on Steam, we have a more diverse library of things to look at and potentially enjoy, which is great because the AAA developers are certainly getting very monotone and repetitive with their annual releases, and they're not taking a lot of experiments. I don't think Halo Infinite is going to come out and do anything that blows anybody's heads off. I don't think Anthem is going to come out and do anything that is amazingly new or interesting. I don't think The Last of Us 2 is going to do anything amazing or interesting. I don't think the next Tomb Raider game is going to do anything interesting. These are very known games and known values. We have Na Taran saying hi bro on the chat. Hey.
What now?
Man, this guy is just not playing. PC Gamer has another article. The Left 4 Dead developer is hiring for an unannounced AAA game in a globally known franchise. Turtle Rock Studios is on the hunt for multiple new hires. So almost certainly this is gonna be some kind of continuation of Left 4 Dead, unless they've been licensed to do something different. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if EA secretly hired them to make a Star Wars game like Battlefront, but I don't know why that would like the timing would be really off. A user on Reset Era, seems like people are still using Reset Era, and at least PC Gamer is looking at Reset Era. Found a job listing for a senior level designer. Hence the game could be a multiple first-person shooter. They're looking for candidates that have experience working with modern FPS engines. I don't know what the modern FPS engines are. Are you just talking Unreal? Like, what other engines are there? There's Unreal, Source 3, maybe? Source 2, maybe? Maybe Source 1. Are there any other licensable first-person shooter engines out there that are worth mentioning? Whoever hires will create competitive and balanced map layouts. It doesn't really feel like when I hear the phrase competitive and balanced map layouts, it feels more like a Counter-Strike Go game more than it feels like a Left 4 Dead game, because Left 4 Dead was, you started at the beginning. How long would this game sit like this, I wonder, until it just glitches out? It feels like you would Left 4 Dead was going from the beginning to the end with,
I wonder.
let's see, seems like my stream, I want to double check and just make sure my stream is not having trouble. No, it's not, it's just Hearthstone, so we probably should just force this at this point. Yeah, let's just force a concede. That's not working either. Let's just force a quit. Hopefully we can get back into Hearthstone. I don't think the chat works very well without a black background. I'm gonna definitely have to change that.
Welcome back.
Like the clear background, in theory, is a cool idea, but in practical use, it's not what I want. Let's get back to playing now. In 2016, the developer, Turtle Rock Studios was the name, right? Turtle Rock Studios, said it was working on a dark fantasy co-op first-person shooter, a new franchise set in a whole new universe. That clearly is not the same game, because it wouldn't be a globally known franchise unless there's some wiggle room around setting a game in a different universe as part of Left 4 Dead. And I feel like it's way too late to make a new Walking Dead game. Left 4 Dead Studios should have been hired to make a Walking Dead game a while ago, if that was going to be the case. This is one of those articles though from PC Gamer, and frankly just from anybody, even me talking about it now, is not really informative or helpful to anybody, because if they're just hiring somebody now, it's 4 years off at least, and it may get canceled in that 4 years, and everybody's gonna forget it. So we're getting hyped about a game we don't even know the name of, and that won't be out for at least 4 years, in my estimate. So, not really actionable, not really informative of information. So, moving on, PC Gamer has Star Wars Battlefront 2's Clone Wars update will be spread out over the rest of 2018. Anakin Skywalker will not arrive until the winter.
Move quickly.
So it feels like what they've done is probably attempted to reduce the costs and probably laid off people at EA or reassign them. So had Battlefront had the microtransactions and was making them money like EA wanted them to, then I imagine this Clone Wars expansion would have come and gone relatively quickly, and then they would have been on to their next bit of expansion. Now they're stretching it out so that they can have more time to work on whatever content, if there's any other content that they're going to release. The last sentence here in this article says EA stressed that more content and features will be confirmed in future roadmap updates, which is a non-committal answer right now, certainly. I suppose Battlefront 2 has to, at the very least, kind of stretch to the point where there's at least a year difference between the release of Battlefront 2 and Battlefront 3. But I don't even know why you make a Battlefront 3 unless you can weather putting the microtransactions back in. And I don't know how you do that. Like,
Victory is yours.
It seems like they're painted into a corner. They've got to let the whole series, basically, the Battlefront series, needs to be on the shelf for long enough that people forget about the microtransactions and loot boxes, so that they can come out with a Battlefront 3 and have the microtransactions and loot boxes again. Because that's really, in my mind, the only thing EA wants to do with the Battlefront series. Is they wanted to have loot boxes, they wanted to make money. If they're not going to do that, then they've got to pull some kind of bait and switch where they sell Battlefront 3 for $90 minimum. Or make it a free-to-play service that requires a monthly subscription. Or in some other form or fashion, monetize it more. And clearly EA wasn't prepared to do something like that, because they'd be talking about it, or they would have done it with Battlefront 2.
Why do you call?
So yeah, I'm really just speculating here though, so let's just move on. We don't have a lot of time. We've got a game on Steam called Scrash, S-C-R-A-S-H. It's described as being dubbed Pong on Crack. Scrash is a two-player face-off with breakable blocks and an air hockey table, and air hockey and table tennis all in one. It's an early access free-to-play action indie game. I think there's some level of BS in their description, but what I'm seeing is a bright neon pink and a bright neon yellow balls bouncing back and forth, hitting these crystals that are exploding, and when the crystals get out of the way, there seems to be certain bins that you're trying to go in to score, and the tables seem to change somewhat, and it seems like you have a central ball that changes colors. So because the ball can be either yellow or pink like the player's pucks, you have this instance of there being two of the same color on the screen, which is incredibly confusing to watch. Like, you couldn't really play this game and know what you're doing. You're just causing chaos. That's all this is. The Price is Right is free. They say it requires a controller, but to be nice, at least, as somebody who has programmed Pong from scratch, with like no graphics libraries or anything like that. He literally just was animating and drawing the squares and the lines. This is a slightly nicer looking example of a student project like programming Pong, but that's kind of all I can say about it. This still is a student project. It shouldn't be on Steam. It does not look good enough. I don't think you can do anything to Pong to make it be a game all by itself. I think at the very least you have to probably, if you're gonna make Pong, also make something like Asteroids and Arkanoid, and usually what we see on Steam is people making cheap Arkanoid clones, and even compared to most cheap Arkanoid clones, this doesn't hold its weight. So yeah, ignore Scratch, S Crash. Let's see. PC Gamer has an article, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night story trailer teases in-game footage. So I wanted to watch this trailer. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is the new game, I believe, from the developer of the Castlevania series, and not the other vampire game that I'm thinking about. That's the Bloodborne Dark Souls developers. Yeah, this is the Castlevania game. It looks good with its 2.5D animation. I wonder if there's ever a point where we should divide 2.5D and 3D on a 2D plane into different categories. Because since this is a brand new game, the 3D looks very 3D-ish. And even the 2D plane is pretty 3D.
Job's done.
So yeah, this was a Kickstarted game. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon already came out, and it was a 2D on 2D games, and people like Bloodstained Curse on the Moon, and I think people will like Ritual of the Night when it comes out. Certainly a level of another one of those games that if I could afford it, I might buy it brand new. There's certainly other Castlevania games that are less important at the time that I already own and could play. Axiom Verge is a great example of that, where like I already own Axiom Verge. I wanted to play it when it came out, but it's been at least a year since that game has come out, so there's less of a real reason to play that. So sadly, even though I kind of brag about the over 900 games in my Steam account, the truth is they're as much of a kind of burden as they are a benefit. I'm very happy to have them, but there is also certainly issues of issues where I have older versions of games that are stopping me from buying newer versions of games in the same genre. But that is the right way to shop for most video game players. Is why play the newest Zelda game if you haven't played some of the older Zelda games, and you can get those used for a lot cheaper. The Lego games are a great example of that. Why play the newest Lego game that they'll charge $60 for when you could be playing Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga for probably $15? Yeah, just because it's old doesn't inherently mean it's bad. It just takes you away from the zeitgeist and the conversation that's happening. Well, that's it for the European account. let's move over to the Americas account. And I am taking too long to go through all of these games. Screen 7, the publisher, tweeted out that their game Dark Apocalypse is on sale right now for 55% off, $1.34. Generally, this is kind of not something I would mention because of the thing is I'm just not capable of following all publishers and all developers directly, and because of that I'm giving slight preferences. This is the newest one, but I have like these other Fireside things that are up higher. Let's see, this is for doing all the monster hunts. This is for doing all the kobolds and catacombs. And this is for doing a Fireside Gathering, which I don't know when I was ever doing a Fireside Gathering. Like, I don't believe I ever was. So I have no idea how I got that. Like, I don't even know how you do a Fireside Gathering. Like, all I know is you find a gathering. And then you have to, like, scan something. Interesting. Interesting. On the Fireside Gathering. Has the shop changed any, by the way? That's a question to ask. Yes, it has. There's something suspiciously missing in the shop now. And that's the Adventures tab. No more adventures. So adventures still exist if you have them, but purchasing them is not something you can do. We just need to play a bunch of spells, right? So we'll just play Spiteful Priest on Classic Ranked. This game, Dark Apocalypse, to be fair, it has only 3 user reviews. It came out December 22nd in 2017. Screen 7 is not a big publisher by far. The game doesn't look that great. So this is one of those games that, since it's cheap, I will consider getting it. Certainly, in fact, I probably should just get the Screen 7 bundle for $10.98, which is 80% off of games like Downfall and the Cat Lady and the Samaritan Paradox. I own several of those games already, so that wouldn't be a bad idea. But generally speaking, I don't think I can recommend Dark Apocalypse for anybody else. Not until I play it. It's one of those crazy games that I'm willing to play and try, but I don't inherently have enough confidence that it will be good. We already talked about that, and we already talked about that, so those 2 tabs closed. We have a game called VAD, Virtually Assured Destruction, and it seems like it might be a VR game. Yes, it's a VR game. And I was gonna throw out all the VR games when I was filtering, but VAD does look kind of pretty. So if you have a VR game, maybe that makes sense. Seems like it's a collection of different mini games. You're flying around a ship in one place. You're standing in a room where things are floating in one section. You're flying through space. You're picking up and placing objects. You might be doing some tower defense. You're shooting, shooting with a shield in one place. So it seems like it is kind of this collection of different events. One part of this, you're controlling a robotic arms and punching the robot, boxing. And it seems like you're doing puzzles. Yeah, VAD is quite the collection. 15% off for $21.24. Yeah, there's no less than 10 mini games listed here. Of course, the first thing I see as far as a review down at the bottom is not recommended, but I'm gonna leave VAD alone and say check it out if you're interested. If you have a Oculus Rift, odds are your standards have already been lowered on virtual reality games low enough that it might interest you. Your Gamer has an article. 6 years later, the PS3 exclusive Starhawk is down for good. 6 years after the PS3 exclusive Starhawk came out, the online functionality has gone dark. Multiplayer features for Starhawk ended on the 30th of June, while the single-player campaign remains playable. I did not hear any news saying that this was going to happen, so it seems kind of like not a very kind way to discontinue service. Like, Starhawk was apparently replaced by a spiritual successor. No, Starhawk was the spiritual successor to the 2007 game Warhawk. So yeah, support for PS3 is almost completely gone now, and if your game is only running on the PS3, that certainly is going to be a problem. Looking at a trailer of Starhawk, it doesn't seem like it's even in widescreen according to this video. It's a lot of running and gunning, just your typical multiplayer first-person shooter game. I'm sure there's people out there that have some nostalgia for it, me personally not being one of them.
Your magic shall not save you. Beware the shadow.
Your Gamer also has an article that links to a video called "The British Teens Who Taught Nintendo How to Make Star Fox." Let's see. So apparently there was there's a group of programmers, British teenagers working at Argonaut Games, and they ended up at Nintendo of Japan, and they were hired, frankly, by Nintendo Japan. Like, there's different ways you can spin that article to say, oh, Nintendo of Japan was so desirous to make Star Fox in the first place, but they didn't know how to do it. They needed to seek out help. But in honesty, from my understanding, they really didn't care about Star Fox, and they were just handing a throwaway idea that they had to a small company to see how good of a product they could make. And it just happened to turn out that good. I'm sure Nintendo of Japan has done that multiple times for many other games also, where they've just given companies a chance to make a Nintendo licensed game by giving them an idea and a general outline and told them to follow that outline. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article. Summer Games Done Quick 2018 raises $2.1 million for charity. The charity is Doctors Without Borders. I, on one hand, positively will say that Summer Games Done Quick this year seem to introduce a lot more newer games that were speedrun instead of the same old. So I saw several games that I either had on my wish list already or needed to have on my wish list. Also, I'd say the ESA was streaming videos around the same time, so there is a combination in my head of of games that came out during the ESA same period. On the bad side, every time game's done quick, it needs to be talked about. There's a little bit of shadiness that almost doesn't matter, but it's worth mentioning about the people who run Games Done Quick being super controlling and kind of killing the flow of previous shows. And frankly, they in the past have said that they weren't getting paid to run the shows, but or that all the money was going to the charity. But then the charity was giving a kickback to the people running Summer Games Done Quick. Not the people on stream per se, but the people behind the scenes were getting paid as employees for, in this case, for as a consultant to Doctors Without Borders. And so some of the money you're giving, very possibly of that 2.1 million, went right back to Summer Games Done Quick. And almost, yeah, you know that has to be the case, because otherwise there would have to be a secondary charity run to fund just renting out the hotel that they're or convention center that they're streaming at, getting all the equipment, you know, little things like that, getting even the bandwidth and the internet from the convention hotel would cost money, and there's no private donation that's covering that. So there's some operating expenses that are not disclosed that well, and if you don't want to support Summer Games Done Quick, the best thing during this time would have been to just directly donate to Doctors Without Borders. I imagine you'd be in a better legal position to write off a donation if you gave it directly to Doctors Without Borders instead of giving it to a company that then is giving it to a company. Often these systems where you're donating to a company allows the company to write off the donation, not you, and that's not really the system you want. I'm just gonna end my turn here. But ignoring that slight issue, which I don't think has been really resolved, like kind of in the same way that I failed to mention that VidCon is run by Viacom and is really an unimportant convention when that was happening a couple of weeks ago.
What now?
They did raise 2.1 million, and it will be based on this 2.1 million that any other givings by any other video game company for this year will be judged and laughed at, because certainly I've seen many instances of video game companies saying we're going to give $50,000 or $100,000 to this charity, and then you compare it and you're like, no, wait a minute, you're Nintendo, why aren't you giving $1 million? When people who are just gamers in general, most of which don't have that much money, can donate more. You've got to outshine them as a big corporation, and it really goes to show the low amount that gets offered as charitable givings by many companies like Ubisoft, EA. I don't think Nintendo really donates to anything, frankly. Moving on though, we don't really have time to speculate. Eurogamer has an article. The original Xbox prototype is alive and kicking. Interesting, I suppose. It is this X-shaped PC. It's from the 2000 keynote. It's on display at the Microsoft Visitor Center. So 18 years ago, apparently. Thing about PCs is generally turning them off and on again is the thing you don't want to do. you can do relatively little damage to a computer by having it off and stay off for long periods of time, or having it on and stay on for long periods of time. But going back and forth. The thing about computers is they have capacitors in them, and capacitors will dry out. So you'd want a area where the capacitors don't dry out. In like the power supply, I know I have one computer where it seems like that's what happened to it, and that was a computer that I definitely had off and did not use for a very long time. Whereas I have a computer and a server, which is just a computer, that have been left on non-stop for at least a couple of years, and they've never shown me any problem at all. Although my server's hard drives they're like on the 3rd generation of computers they've been in, so they do fail every now and then, as would be expected, and I need to get around to buying another server hard drive. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article, 10 fascinating facts about the history of LucasArts. I'm not sure, like, yeah, this is interesting information to me, but I'm thinking I'll just read it myself later, because it is just 10 facts about LucasArts, which LucasArts doesn't exist anymore, so there's kind of nothing to be said or done there. I need to look and see if I'm playing enough spells to get the daily quest done. Let's see. Steam has a game called Sumerian Blood Gilgamesh Against the Gods. This looks like a MS Paint looking game, and then it has kind of this weird diagonal chessboard set in one screenshot, and then it seems like it's a one screen game, almost like Snake or something. The graphics look really bad. There was one screenshot here with the chessboard that caught my attention. I'm like, oh yeah, that would be interesting, a diagonal chess set instead of a, I doubt much would actually even change if you were playing with a diagonal chess set, actually, if all the other rules are the same, but now that I look at the other screenshots, there's nothing here. It's 10% off for $4.49. I wouldn't pay 49 cents for it. Moving on. So I already talked about that game. Let's see. PC Gamer has an article. My Brother Rabbit is a surreal point-and-click adventure from Artifacts Mundi, out later this year. This is a Artifacts Mundi apparently is a hidden object game maker that is expanding now into a true point-and-click adventure game. Yeah, I only played one spell. That's not gonna work. Let's switch this to this and play Secret Mage. So yeah, My Brother Rabbit, I guess I'll keep an eye on it, maybe wishlist it. Might as well wishlist it now. But this really is an example of PC Gamer hyping up a game and talking about a game. Oddly, a point-and-click game way before it's out. The ScumVM website project updated their website to look a little bit different. Doesn't look amazingly different, frankly, but they wanted to announce that, so I'll just say that and move on. Let's see. Gematsu. This is the first Gematsu article we've had today. Has an article. The company FU capital RYU, so Furu, is to temporarily suspend its games business. Already invested, upcoming titles not affected. And it says this was updated.
What to do?
So. The quote here is, investments in game development will be temporarily suspended and we will maximize our focus on the monetization of titles we have already invested in. So that means we've got no intention of this company surviving the next cycle, as it were. We're just going to try and get as much money as possible, and then we're going to lay off all the employees and shutter the company. Because that's all you can really take it to mean.
We have many.
Everybody else in the games industry has to continuously invest to continuously have something in the oven, some game in production. If you've got nothing in production and you're stopping development now, that means you won't have a game to release next year. You won't have a game to release the year after that. You won't have a game probably to release the year after that or the year after that. You're going to go 4 or 5 years with nothing whatsoever to release.
For $1.
Clarification, what we are describing is in regards to the smartphone games within our games business. While we've been releasing several titles each year, we have temporarily suspended the development of new titles in the fiscal year. For console games, we'll continue to plan, develop, and sell games in the same way we've been doing during and after the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2019. So, it seems like they're saying they're stopping development of smartphone games now instead of all games. Well, they certainly did not clarify that well. I don't know who Furu is though. Capital F, lowercase u, capital R, lowercase y, lowercase u.
Greetings.
They're probably some kind of Korean cell phone game maker more than anything. And this feels like maybe the CEO or the person in charge just had a change of heart on the industry. But I figured I'd announce that as it was. Let's see.
For $1.
We've got a game on Steam called Host. It's a VR game where you're playing, I believe, as some kind of infectious body inside a body of some kind of creature. So you're swimming around in what look like veins or something. Although colors certainly don't look to me like they could be the human body. The colors are way off on this, and this really looks ridiculous and kind of odd. But it's 40% off for $5.99, and I figured I'd mention it just for its odd coloring, an odd idea of flying around a some kind of alien's body. It says.
Someday I'll be just like you.
For $1.
Give that minion a turn to get ready. Time runs out on me.
That's the description for Host is when your spacecraft crashes on an unknown planet, you navigate your way through dark and puzzling corridors. Using only your hands as your wits, will you be able to solve the rooms and explore what's beyond. Yeah, it doesn't look like you're going through corridors, it looks like you're going through some giant alien's body. Moving on. We've got a game called Super Dangerous Dungeons on Steam. And it's got that 16-bit graphics. It's a platformer. You're jumping around. It's not like as crazy as Super Meat Boy. And more often than not these days we see these crazy Super Meat Boy-esque games that don't really line up with
$4
they just don't really line up with what I'd want to play because they look too difficult,
Runs out on me.
quite frankly. They look like they're clones. They look too difficult. And I was certainly in the mood to ignore Super Dangerous Dungeons and say, yeah, this is just another one of these games, but there's way too many of them coming out on Steam. But the camera angle on this game is zoomed in nicely. The animation looks good with its pixel style. The platforming in the video seems reasonable and hopefully well controlled. And so I want to give this one a chance. I'm feeling a little generous. 10% off for $4.49. I'm going to wishlist Super Dangerous Dungeons and keep an eye on it. A Super Mario Brothers clone, certainly.
An incredible discovery.
Also something I want in my life. There's still a considerable small number of Nintendo-esque clone games that are on Steam. You've got, like, Shanti is a good example, but there really is no Punch-Out clone game that I know on Steam. There's not something that feels 100% like a clone to The Legend of Zelda. There are games that get you mostly to the point of Legend of Zelda, but not quite all the way there. I'm trying to play as many spells right now, by the way, so that's why I'm not ending the game. I could probably go through the list of every NES game that was like in the top 100, and I would guess that there's at least 40 or 50 in the top 100 that don't have anything anywhere close. And part of that certainly is the game industry has just stopped making arcadey NES style games and platformers in favor of making open world 3D games. I think a great example of that is Bionic Commando, the reboot.
We have many.
Went from being a flat 2D platforming game to a open world 3D game, and certainly didn't really benefit from that. Do as much damage as possible, that way we can get more experience if we get more experience. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article, Niantic previews augmented reality tech designed to create meaningful interactions. This is Pokemon related, or Pokemon Go related. Let's skip through this trailer. I think the general idea is to have a Pikachu that somewhat knows things and can run around in the real world and know what it's interacting with. However, like they're showing examples of Pikachu running around and not really knowing what to do, so it kind of just clips through things, where with the new technology they're capable of telling them to actually run around other people's legs, but you would look completely ridiculous as the human here holding up your camera, watching while other people are trying to walk by in a crowded environment. The idea of augmented reality with Pokemon makes a lot more sense in an open park or something like that, where there aren't people or things in the way. Not a crowded, narrow area. Moving on, there's a game called DDS, Do-It-Yourself Drone Simulator. I'm not sure I appreciate taking an anachronism or an initialism like do-it-yourself and then initializing it again to be DDS. Like that seems meta textual. This guy decided to refill his whole health, so I'll hit him again. What this game is it's a non-VR game for 40% off, $10.19, where you play with a drone and build a drone and design a drone to some extent. It doesn't look too bad. If your kids are into drones, maybe this would be the game for them. You can fly it around, you can build it, you can play it, you can do some scenarios where you're seeing goals to fly through. Looks like there's some city areas where you can also fly through. Seems like it's kind of everything you'd want. Maybe it's not 100% polished. Maybe this is one of those things where it's only 5 minutes long. But right now it seems fine. It says there are 5 different maps: a downtown, stadium, island, parking lot, and factory.
For Dalaran.
Total darkness will be my revenge.
So yeah. I guess I'll wishlist this game, DDS, Do-It-Yourself Drone Simulator. A lot of argument certainly could be made though that if you're into drones, you really want to play with a real world drone. Like, it seems kind of silly to do that within a game, and if you took the emphasis away from making a realistic real-world drone, many first-person shooters could have a drone mini-game or drone mini-puzzle section, and it's kind of surprising more of them don't. Secret. I guess I could win. Let's go and take our victory and move on. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, Detention Studio, that is the studio that made the game Detention, has announced a first-person horror game called Devotion, so it seems like they're going down the list of D words, and if the next word is devotion, then the next game in the series would be something like Disillusion or something like that. This is a 1980s Taiwan set game centered around a small religious family. And there's like a thumbnail and a teaser, so let's see what this is.
Lunara.
The forest fights back.
The Taiwanese society is not one I'm very familiar with at all, so yeah. That would certainly be an interesting looking game. And the level of graphics here that I'm seeing in this trailer are not what I was expecting. I was expecting a flat 2D animation style, anime-esque style with the Taiwanese twist. What I'm seeing, at least, seems to be full 3D. That's rather surprising. Yeah, they say it's a first-person 3D psychological horror game, which we certainly see first-person psychological horror games on Steam all the time.
Nature's blessings.
That doesn't mean a lot, frankly, but this might be interesting. Certainly no indication of time when it comes out or what consoles it will come out on, so can't say anything here. There's a game on Steam called Chess Parallel Esports. Chess Battle is reimagined as 3D. In this variant of chess, you have 3 parallel boards and the pieces can travel before them. It's kind of like the Star Trek Next Generation chessboard, but slightly different. I think this one is actually a more realistic chess game than the way Star Trek did it. And the animation here is half good and half bad. This feels like somebody was playing around with Unity. They were able to get Unity assets to make each of the chess pieces animated characters that look very nice. And then they've got like some very basic,
We have many
very basic backgrounds. Basically the chessboards are just floating in the air. And they've introduced an idea that is complicated and complicates chess more than I think most people want it to be, and it looks like a Unity game, like a single screen Unity game. That's got some problem there. It has AI with 3 difficulty modes and local multiplayer, and it has a regular mode so you can at least play regular chess. I've still yet to see a good chess game on Steam. I'd like to find one. But they don't seem like any of them just get it done right. They seem to all have problems with them, and this was another example of that. And having the name esports in it for no reason makes no sense. Not having any multiplayer online makes no sense. This game is $4.99. Frankly, it's at best a 50-cent game, if not that it shouldn't be on Steam at all, in my opinion. Moving on, next game we have is a game called Dead in Time, and it's an early access action indie game. It looks like a top-down twin-stick shooter, rogue-like or rogue-like game. Kind of like Diablo. Looks a little like Diablo. Yeah, I don't think there's anything here in this early access game that would make me want to play it over just, say, playing Diablo 3. Dead in Time is $7.99 with no discount. And I don't see anything there. Let's see. Code Vein has a second trailer, so that they're really pushing the trailer. One trailer showed gameplay, the other trailer shows a little bit of gameplay in one of the characters, Maya Karnstein.
That was wild.
Feels like Code Vein is going to be... Wait, is this the other vampire game I'm thinking about? Wait a minute. I have to think now. Yes, Code Vein is not the Castlevania successor that we talked about earlier today. Code Vein is the Bloodstained Ritual. No, not Bloodstained Ritual Night. That's the Castlevania successor. This one is the Bloodborne trailer with the weird gas masks and vampires fighting in 3D. Code Vein is due out on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC on September 28th in Japan, and the console versions will launch September 27th. And it is expected to come to the West, I think, although it didn't say that. you really can see why I thought that 2019 was going to be the year of the vampire, although at this rate it may actually be that 2018 turns out to be the year of the vampire, for as many vampire games are coming out, at least 2 or 3 of them. Eurogamer has an article, win one of 4 limited edition copies of the Myst 25th Anniversary Collection. Let's see. So yeah, you can enter all of that, and I believe you will enter the contest, and maybe it's only for European people. Let's see. The games will be shipped directly to you once it's finished and ready to go. And I think you're getting CD versions of the game. I don't think you're getting Steam. The thing here also is that in this thing, they're saying that these games are only available on Good Old Games, which is not how I understood it. I thought it was going to come to Steam. Maybe it's on Good Old Games first for an exclusive time.
Sign up to
It seems kind of silly that they'd only release it to Good Old Games.
Runs out on me.
I appreciate
But I'll certainly make an effort there. Let's go and squelch this character. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Jump Force adds Ichigo Kurosaki and Rukia Kuchiki. I don't think I've ever heard Rukia's last name pronounced, and Sosuke Aizen from Bleach. So those are 3 of the most important characters from the Bleach TV series and manga, both of which I believe have finished now, and arguably there was definitely some weirdness about how and what was made into the TV series versus what the first game, what the manga did. Because I think in Bleach's case, the manga was pretty straightforward about telling just the main story, and then the anime TV series was always adding content and adding side stories because the manga artist was taking too long to make it, so they stretched out a very short manga run into a very long TV series that was very successful. In fact, the most successful anime for a long time. And they did do a good job making the anime in a lot of points too. They rushed the animation. Is there really anything to say there though? Like, Bleach kind of was a disappointment at the end of the day. I wish it was better. And Jump Force, in a weird way, probably will be a disappointment also. Like, people, it's gonna get hyped as this amazing, like, new Dragon Ball Fighters, Dragon Ball Fighter Z type game, but in all honesty, it's probably not gonna be that great or have that many characters in it, and it'll probably just be a cheap sell. A cheap way to sell some character, some game. Moving on, Gematsu has an article, Mercenaries Wings, The False Phoenix has been announced for Switch. It's due out in 2018. Let's see. What kind of game is this? Apparently it's an RPG. That's kind of all I know. I'm seeing just a logo picture and that's it. Let's see. Gamasutra has an article that's a blog called Recreating the Zelda VFX in Unity, which might be interesting if you ever wanted to develop or animate in Unity to recreate some of the visual effects that were in Zelda.
Time runs out on me.
It's very possible that Zelda was created in Unity, frankly, instead of an in-house Nintendo engine. So you might simply be doing something somebody else had already done. Otherwise, if you're not an animator, particularly for video effects in particular, this is an article that might be educational, but probably most people aren't interested in. We've got a game on Steam called FESNIA. Is that Fesnia?
The battle is over.
It says it's an indie casual platform. And at first glance in the thumbnail, and it looks pretty good. But then you look at the game and the backgrounds look like they're made in MS Paint, and the characters look like they're made in MS Paint, and there's no like dynamic environment. It's just a background and that's it. So it's kind of a shame. Like you brought me in with an interesting thumbnail, and then you just lost me with all the screenshots and trailers. And certainly that is why Steam requires trailers and screenshots, because too many games in the old days, I imagine, were getting away with tricking people into buying games that weren't very good. Like Fesnia is 10% off for $4.49. It's not worth 49 cents in my opinion.
You asked for
Language is English only, which seems odd because it seems almost certainly like it's a Chinese company making the game. Is there anything else to really say about it though? No, let's just move on. Next game we have is a game called Numeric, N-U-M-E-R-I-C. And what is this game? It says it's an indie action adventure casual simulator. And just a little bit of everything in it. It seems like you're playing as some kind of box or dice that's running around a pretty generic asset flipped-esque area with lasers, and it's kind of a jump over the laser type game. And dodge. There's apparently a fight sequence where you're dodging lasers. This would make so much more sense if your character wasn't a block. And there's like bullet hell lasers. Taking the gag and having somebody play as a block doesn't make sense. See, this looks like a rather pretty game, but it's really just a pretty asset flip, from best I can tell. It's 30% off for $1.39. They know it's not that good. And the only review is not recommended, and it just says question mark, question mark, question mark. Is this game question mark, question mark, question mark? Like,
what to do.
And that I kind of agree. It seems like it's just a random collection of things.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Alright, next game we have on Steam is called Ink Cipher. Crack Cipher crossword puzzles with Ink Cipher. I don't know what Cipher crossword puzzles particularly are. Seems like they are, for the most part, just crossword puzzles where each letter has a number, each number correlates to a letter, and I guess maybe that's not always in crossword puzzles. If there's no hints here, this would just be straight up cracking something. Might be interesting. So let's see what the price is on this. 99 cent, no discount. contains over 100 puzzles with free updates planned. It's a one-screen Unity game. It looks good enough. It seems like it's doing what it should. It's a widescreen. I'm willing to be generous and give this one a thumbs up or a try.
Just like you.
Draw 2 cards.
Time runs out on me.
Moving on. Gamma Sutra has another blog, Spoiled for Choice, the psychology of choice overload in games and how to avoid it. There's a too long didn't read version that maybe everybody should look at. It certainly makes sense, though, that there definitely have been too many games to pick on my Steam account where I'm just like, I have 900 games to play. Which one should I actually play? Where that certainly becomes an issue. There's also been instances where I can't play anything. I shouldn't have played that. There have been instances inside of particular games where there's just too many things to collect and play with. Borderlands 2, and for a smaller amount, Borderlands 1 was pretty bad about having so many guns that you're playing menu hero all the time.
You want it?
Just ordering and coordinating your inventory. When you compare that to something like Resident Evil 4, where there's kind of only a few rare instances where you would actually have a full inventory, particularly when you're playing on the higher well, at a certain point when you're playing on high enough levels on Resident Evil 4, you have infinite ammo, and then it stops being an issue altogether.
I'm late. I'm late.
Let's see. I'm playing. Like, they're showing League of Legends
I have no
character
time for
select
games.
screen and just how cluttered that is. Let's see. As an example of having too many choices. Certainly having too many choices is a problem. Although I have seen people where you really have just like 2 choices and people still can't decide. Inherently, there's a percentage of people that just cannot make decisions. And others, if there's too much you can do or say to fix that or change it. Moving on, we have a game called Casino Mega Collection. I'm going to keep an eye on this. It is just a collection of casino games. They don't look amazingly good or realistic or anything like that. But it's got your blackjack, it's got your Texas Hold'em, it's got at least 2 or 3 slot machines, it's got your craps. I don't know if it has a roulette. It has video poker, it has Keno. So you have a whole collection of casino games at least. It's 20% off for $5.59. Probably too expensive there at that point, but it does have roulette. It has Pie Gal, Let It Ride, Caribbean Stud, and many more. So yeah, if you're a fan of going to Las Vegas and you would like to not spend as much money, Casino Mega Collection looks like something that will be decent. Now, the argument certainly could be made that any casino games should be on your phone and they should be free or ad-based. Maybe you'd subscribe to that, maybe you wouldn't. But as far as Steam, that seemed like a decent choice. Eurogamer has an article, a legendary shoot 'em up series is coming to Switch early next year. Taito's legendary Darius series is hitting your Switch with a new compilation that's coming out each year, early next year. I believe Darius also has like one game that you can't get except for like off eBay for a very expensive amount of money. So I'm gonna ruin my streak here of not talking about political issues for the stream. Gamasutra has an article, Ex-Hate Monker confirms white supremacist recruit in Minecraft and Fortnite. I'm not sure I really want to read this article, but yeah, that was published there. Like, I don't know how much recruiting you really get to at that point. Like, if you are truly a Klansman, if you're truly going to local meetings of your KKK, like, finding somebody via Minecraft or Fortnite that might be across the planet doesn't really recruit anything. It's like you could spread your message that way, but that's hardly recruiting.
I can target stealthed minions.
And this seems kind of questionable how much this really happened. Certainly has never happened to me. I would certainly shut it down, any conversation like that, real quick. So I'm just going to close that article for my own general sanity. Gamasutra has an article, Get a Job. House Marquee is hiring a writer. So that position is in Helsinki, Finland. Hey, we got a bonus streak going. Nice. Let's see. There's a game on Steam called Ancient Warlords Aquabellum. AEQUILIBRIM. That's quite a big word to put in your title. Man, I still need 13 spells. Not playing spells very fast. This game is like a card game, tactical strategy game. It kind of looks like Gwent a little bit. In fact, it looks suspiciously like Gwent. But I might check it out. I'll be generous. This game is 40% off for $4.19 right now. Ancient Warlords Aquabellum. I'm gonna wishlist it and keep an eye on it. See if anybody reviews it. Came out July 2nd, 2018. So it's new. I wanted to make a personal editorialization for a second here. Your Gamer put out an article that says, say hello to Your Gamer's new reporter intern. It's Emma Kent. I feel like this may have been ghostwritten by Emma Kent herself, although it says this the deputy editor Wesley Yin Poole, YIN-POOLE, that they wrote this. And in the tweet to announce this, they included this image that's in the article of this young lady who's probably 19, maybe 20, and it's just kind of a picture of her in black and white. It's not really a professional picture. Her shoulders showing, her hair's down. It's more of a Vogue fashion image. Boy, are you just throwing her to the wolves. And I never really want to say that it's malicious when I could say something is just ignorant, but boy, is this ignorant of just like opening up the door for some like lewd, inappropriate comments on her appearance. She's an intern. I don't know why you're announcing your intern at all, but certainly if she's going to be a writer, she should be introduced with her writing and not a special article saying that she's important. Like, because she really isn't. She's just an employee. Her writing should stand by itself. As it goes down here, like, she's only going to be working. It says Emma will work closely with Tom Phillips and I as a reporter for the next 3 months. She's only going to be working for 3 months, and they wrote an article about her. Like, that's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. Like, interns could come and go at the drop of a hat. Yeah, you've written an entire article about her, and you could have fired her the next day. There's parts down here lower that like she spent the past year as a gaming editor for the University of Birmingham student newspaper. It lists some of the games that she's a big fan of, like Tales of the Borderlands, Spec Ops The Line, and Dishonored, which, like, none of that really needed to be said, frankly. It really feels like you're highly elevating your intern, frankly. The picture, for instance, and just in comparison, Wesleyan Yin Poole, who's the deputy editor, when I click on his picture, he doesn't even have a real picture of himself. It's more of a cartoon characterization of himself. So yeah, your gamers throwing their intern out there as a piece of meat to be eaten by the dogs, it feels like. Just unprofessional and dumb and pointless. Seems like she's only going to be there for 3 months anyways. She writes, what, a dozen articles? If she writes one article a week and she's there for 3 months, you're talking 12 articles. But I really don't have time to get into that too much. Your Gamer has an article otherwise. By the way, Tom Phillips also has that same cartoonized image of himself. But the article's Germany's giant game rating logo sees Yoshi taken off the Smash Brothers Ultimate box. So for the USK German rating thing, they redid the graphics and took Yoshi off the front cover and moved Pikachu upward to where Yoshi was. So apparently Yoshi was the one to lose there. That certainly goes to show a lack of pre-planning, because you should know what space the logos and the age ratings have to be and have a cutout there. So it really shouldn't have been a problem. In comparison though, I am looking at the PEGI rating, the ESRB rating, and the German rating, the USK, or maybe
I must consider.
The label apparently required, the size of the label for the Germany one is definitely much bigger, much bigger than the other games. It's also knocking Super Smash Brothers away from being centered on the bottom part of the design to being far to the right. So yeah, I could see some people being upset about that. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article, Second Life creators VR platform High Fidelity secures $35 million investment. So High Fidelity is funding to make a new kind of Second Life type game, I suppose. would be the way to describe that. It's from the Second Life founder, Philip Rossdale. Yeah, I seriously doubt there's going to be a thriving Second Life VR platform. By the time High Fidelity gets a final product out there, I imagine VR will be long since forgotten about. Eurogamer has an article, Pokemon Go's Dortmund Safari Zone event was a fumbled success. Rosalina tinted glasses. So apparently the Pokemon Go events are getting better slowly but surely. Just that's all I really wanted to take from that. Let's take this. Gamma Sutra has an article called The Surprising Effects of Steam Sales on Non-Discounted Games as a blog. Let's see if we can get any data peaks here. Yep, it definitely causes people to buy more games even if they're not on sale. Doesn't make major spikes, but looking at some of these charts that are being blogged here seem to indicate that games get most of their sales in that release window, and that's what most publishers say.
One day, I'll be a real knight.
The last sentence here in this blog is gamers are way tougher to sell than publishers. So, seems like it's easier to get publishers to fund the game than it is to get gamers to buy it, according to that blog. I'm not sure I fully agree with that. Depends on how many sales you want.
We're using real swords.
Let's see. Eurogamer has an article, modders remake the Battle for Middle-earth in Unreal. So this is a mod. What is it? A mod for... No, it seems like it's its own thing. It's kind of strange if the Battle for Middle-earth was a series that was beloved, that they wouldn't make a new game and try and sell on that, since Shadow of Mordor was popular. But I'll leave that one alone. I'm trying to burn through all the news. We're already 40 minutes over. I could have broken it into 3 recordings and I didn't. That's why I figured I was going to do something like that. Gamma Sutra has an article, the incoming Paradox Interactive CDO wants more acquisitions and mobile expansion. So, Paradox Interactive is going to go in a slightly different direction. Paradox Interactive also is owned, 5% at least of it is owned by Tencent, the Chinese company that is partially under the Chinese government control, like all companies in China.
Once upon a time.
So I kind of wish I knew what Paradox Interactive made lately, but I don't know. I'm not going to bother to look it up. It's probably not that big of a company. Alright, we've got a game on Steam called Neon Boy, which is a Super Meat Boy clone.
What to do?
And for that reason, I really have no interest in it. It's 10% off for $5.39. I don't think, with its level of graphics, that it's worth that. So, a few days ago, June 29th, Variety put out this article inside the ADLs, and that's the ADLs as an anti-defamation defamation league, where you defame somebody. They're anti-defaming people league. Plans to take on Gamergate and comma hate in gaming. This is really rather ridiculous and infuriating. It shows that the video game industry in particular, and I'm going to put the blame on the industry, still is bringing up Gamergate as if it's something that's still going on. And still, frankly, the video game industry is still trying to defame Gamergate and make it be something that it never was. And I think most people would agree with me on that. Let's see. When you read the article, it seems like the Anti-Defamation League is just going to talk with the industry and look into it. Hopefully, the Anti-Defamation League learns a few things and realizes there's nothing there to interact with or talk about. Putting the Gamergate in there certainly immediately polarizes the conversation for no reason. If they were just going to talk about hateful speech and angry speech in video games, I would probably be much more willing to agree with them and be on the ADL's side. And yes, this is Variety's spin on it, and I think that's part of the problem. The ADL hasn't said that they plan on doing anything other than investigating it. It is worth mentioning that the FBI for 2 years investigated Gamergate and found there was nothing there. No crime had been committed. Basically, no actions could be taken.
An incredible discovery.
At least that's what I hear. I'm a latecomer to Gamergate myself. It's like I didn't know anything about it when it was going on until I heard other people on YouTube talking about it and explaining it to me. Then I learned it. It is also worth mentioning that the ADL was the same group that said all of the Pepe memes were racist and hate speech. And then they had to come back and say, oh no, we didn't mean all the Pepe memes. We just meant the ones with the Nazi swastikas on them. And it's like, so the Anti-Defamation League does seem like they're trying to stick their toe into the way the cyber world works. And they don't really have a firm understanding and grasp of it.
Jaina versus
It's really not worth their time to get into this. There's better things that they could be working on, frankly. And when any organization shows that they're working on petty, pedantic things that don't matter instead of bigger issues that would matter, that's not encouraging to me. Moving on, though, trying not to get into a political rant. There's a Kickstarter for a VR mystery adventure called Tokyo Chronos that launches July 10th. This is from Gamatsu. Seems like the Japanese might be getting into Kickstarting games. I assume this is more of a VR visual novel adventure than what it originally is being described as. Let's see, apparently it's gonna be shown at Anime Expo. There's only a few pictures right now of this Tokyo Chronos, and it's just anime people with some colorful things. Like colorful highlights, I guess is best I can describe it as. We've got a game on Steam called ELDR Legacy, like Elder. Let's see, it's a action-adventure indie RPG. Looks like an RPG Maker game. Why did I not close this game? Looks like it's a little bit fast-paced and not an actual RPG Maker game. Instead, it looks more like a top-down twin-stick shooter type game. But it certainly has the graphics of an RPG Maker game, and that still kills it for me. This game is 25% off, and for $2.24. Let's end the turn. We also have a game on Steam called Running with Dinosaurs. I don't believe this game is in English. Nope, it's only in simplified Chinese. I thought it was I closed that one. It's just an infinite runner game. It looks pretty awful. Cheap Chinese knockoff of something that should have been a mobile game, even if it was going to look this awful. There's literally no reason for this to be on Steam. Moving on, we only have a couple more games, and then I'm not going to really look at my Twitter feed. There might be some more things to do. And then after the stream today, I've got to try and pull up enough energy to continue recording not Broken Sword, I keep confusing Black Mirror 2 with Broken Sword 2. Black Mirror 2, and then I need to start a whole new game of Warcraft Go and see how long it takes me to rage quit that, and after I do Warcraft Go, do Warcraft Temple of Osiris 2. There's a game called Maitetsu, M-A-I-T-E-T-S-U, which it looks like it's a anime visual novel based on an anime that I think is out this season, where there's girls running railway cars.
An incredible discovery.
I don't know if there's any other way to explain it more than that. Just a bunch of anime girls and kind of an obsession with railway cars. You know, Japanese have been merging anime girls with other obsessions for a long time, and they seem to go in cycles and think of something new and something interesting. I don't think there's really too much other you can say here. Looks fine. Looks good. 20% off for $11.99 if you're into visual novels. This is not one of the ones that says it has nudity or sexual content, so it's take that to understand that too. One assumes that it's a dating sim, but I definitely could be wrong about that.
I'm late.
It could just be a story. There's always that chance that there's actually no romance options or dialogues in a visual novel, although most of them do have that. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article, Myst 3 and 4 finally come to good old games. Cyan is planning new games in the series. After years out of reach, Myst 3 Exile and Myst 4 Revelation are once again available for purchase. So, in this article, the thing that they're saying Good Old Games is actually involved in the updating process and the release of the games. So maybe it really won't come to Steam. And then they talk about making their latest game, Abduction, which is, for the most part, a Myst game in a light format. Basically trying to learn how to use unreal to make a Myst game because they probably didn't really know how to program, and they really had to introduce a whole new generation of employees to make Abduction. But now I think they want to get back and make a new Myst game. I don't know how you do that. You basically need to do a reboot. The whole series is a mess storyline wise and gameplay wise. And yes, they got a lot of money. $247,500 was their goal, and they ended up with $2.8 million on their Kickstarter campaign. But without a full remake, I don't think there's any more polish you can put on the Myst series, really. Particularly when you talk about Myst 5, I believe, which I don't think is getting mentioned here, unless there isn't a Myst 5 and I'm confused, which might also be a case.
Quickly.
So yeah, I think they have to reboot it, remake it, start the series over, have a new character that's different from the character that you theoretically were playing in all the old games, have everything look new and different, like set it 100 years in the future. TechRaptor had this article, NYKO to release a cardboard arcade cabinet for the Nintendo Switch. So if you wanted to play something that kind of looked like an arcade cabinet using the Nintendo Switch, it looked kind of interesting, like a cardboard Labo being sold by a third party. However, the problem is that the kit is like $20. It's not super expensive, but it's really just giving you cardboard and a couple pieces of plastic to move around some buttons and turn the D-pad into a control stick. Whereas you'd probably be better just plugging a USB fighting stick directly into a Nintendo Switch in docked mode. That would kind of make more sense. I'm not sure if you can plug in 2 fighting sticks into a Nintendo Switch at the same time. That's an interesting thought. And we have a game on Steam called Happy Stealing with Kurosami Marasa, and this is just like an infinite dungeon crawler with some anime girls in it. It's just like a cheap looking game. And of course, it's only in English and Chinese, so yeah, it's a cheap Chinese game. 51% off for 49 cents.
I'm late. I'm late.
So yeah, nothing there that interests me, and that puts me on the Humble Bundle site. And do we have any games on the Humble Bundle site? No game bundles. And let's look at our Twitch channel just to make sure it's still there and working. Yep.
We're those who wield it.
And then that can just put me back at Twitter, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like, there's barely any new things even on Twitter. After this game that will wrap up,
To arms, men!
and play this, and do this,
Quickly.
and do this. And the turn. Yeah, I'm probably not gonna win here, even though I could have. The YouTube Gaming Twitter still has their LGBTQ logo up, and they posted how to enjoy Bayonetta. And it seems to just be a video of somebody running around playing Bayonetta. I'm not seeing anything special about it other than they're not doing the special attack that they should be. Shenmue 1 and 2 listed for August 21st in the Microsoft Store. 24 years down the road, System Shock gets its first fan-made campaign. Interesting. How come? Why did I get 100 dust for that? I wasn't supposed to get 100 dust there. I'm not gonna complain about it. Well, it's been about 2 hours. Should have been less than 2 hours, definitely. Let's see what this new card is. Just a gold. Highly unlikely to ever get nerfed card for 50 dust. We're good to go. That's gonna be it for this stream. I'll look down my Twitter feed at some point and have more news on Wednesday. And see, it took me 3 hours to do the regular daily quests and all the news. And I had already filtered out some of the news. And I had already done 2 of the daily quests. Like, for Monday, we should have done 9 daily quests. We only did 3. It still took me 3 hours. That says something about how much of Hearthstone it takes up your time and just wastes your time. Anyways, that's it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, I'm asking people to friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.